change. Tonight, I have the great pleasure of introducing our speaker. Now, she asked that I not say too much, but I have to say Freya has been involved with Blue Ties and Butterflies from the very beginning. But her history goes back beyond just Blue Ties and Butterflies. It goes beyond our building on 720 South Orange. Freya goes all the way back where she used to be a co-facilitator when we were on 17th Street. She participated and worked with the middle school group, helping those girls who are impacted and victims of abuse. She was a part of our team that helped our kids go from child victim to survivor to one that thrives. Her passion, her resolve, her message is powerful. And now we're going to turn it over to hear from Freya. Please join me in welcoming Freya Martins to the stage.
Lingering question to ask my mother. I was 40 years old, and I wanted to know how she felt when something happened when I was 17. So I said, Mom, how did you feel that day I announced to you that I was moving away from home before I graduated from high school? Relieved, she said. Relieved? I thought she was going to say that she was sorry for not protecting me from the abuse. You're probably wondering, what was so bad that I wanted to move away from home before I had even graduated from high school? Well, for starters, I attended 13 schools in 12 years. I know, military family. No, dysfunctional family. If you would, take out your brochure and look at page 21. And on page 21, you will see a photo of a little girl. The reason I use that photo is I want all of us to be reminded that we are talking about innocent children. Children who cannot protect themselves from abuse. She's cute, isn't she? It is me. And she doesn't look like she's abused, does she? But she was. Expect me to be vulnerable with you tonight. My story begins on a farm in Connecticut. I was between the ages of 2 and 5. I lived on that farm with my mom and my dad and my 3 brothers. My father used to take me to the hayloft and sexually abuse me. What I didn't know was that my oldest brother followed us. He told my mother. My mother confronted my father. She threatened to divorce him. He threatened suicide. The police came. He was taken away at gunpoint. He was admitted to a state hospital. He was diagnosed with paranoia and schizophrenia. The doctors told my mother he would never get better, he would only get worse. And it was true. They said she should leave him. He escaped from the hospital and came home. My mother took him back. She told the judge everything was fine. They stayed married for about 5 more years. And then the abuse stopped. I want to share my heart with you, and you, and you, and you in the back. I want to share with you what happens when someone we don't even know changes our life for the better. How many of you here know, by a show of hands, someone who has been abused as a child? Raise your hand, please. And look around the room. Now, we would expect that an event like this, there would be more people, right? But this is real. This is my story, but my story is your story. There are many of us here in this room. I came from from a middle-class family. I was married at 22 and divorced at 25. Any golfers in here? I call that my mulligan. Well, a month after that divorce was final, I was diagnosed with bone cancer. At 25, bone cancer. I firmly believe that the cancer was as a result of the abuse that I experienced as a child. I know God promises He won't give us any more than what we can handle. I was beginning to wonder. It was a 16-hour surgery. I woke feeling my leg, just trying to figure out whether I had a leg or not. I was delighted that I did. It doesn't look very pretty, but it still works. I was flat on my back for a month and a half in the hospital in traction. Can you say bedpan? It's okay. It gave me time to think, and I'm sure God was pleased about that. Before leaving the hospital, they put me in a full-length cast. You know, the kind that goes from down there all the way up to here, and it's so high, you have to be careful when you pee that you don't pee on yourself. You know what? My life was going to be good. It was going to be better. I had big hopes and dreams. I was going to make sure that my children didn't suffer the way I did. Well, I didn't even have children then, but I knew I wanted them. I started reading. I read My Mother and Myself by Nancy Friday, and I'm Okay, You're Okay by Wayne Dyer, and I got a good counselor, Fred. And I shared my struggles with him and many other counselors in my life. It was a short while after that that I met a man who had 3 young children, and we got married. What was I thinking? Well, 2 years later, we had a beautiful little girl, and 3 years after that, we had a darling little boy. But 15 years of a very difficult marriage. I knew I had to leave, and I was scared. So, I hired an attorney, and the fight was on. 2 years later, and $130,000, we had a divorce. But I was emotionally, financially, and spiritually wrecked. In 2004, I changed careers. The children and I moved from Kansas to Florida. I became a family mediator, helping couples divorce the nice way. Life hasn't been perfect, but it's been good, and I've been blessed. The reason that I tell you this, it's so important that I want you to know why this is important to me. A short while after my mother and father divorced, my mom met a man who would someday become my stepfather. He was 8 years older than me. Yeah. So to put it into perspective, my brothers were 14 through 18. My mother was 38. He was 21. And I was 13. Well, we all moved in together in New Hampshire. And as soon as we moved in together, my brothers moved out. My stepfather had alcohol problems. He had a lot of problems. It was a frigid winter night, and after an evening of drinking and playing cards, my mother needed to take their friends home. She left the house, and as soon as she left the house, he burst into my bedroom, yelling. I pretended to be asleep. He demanded my attention. He came over to the bed and pulled his pants down and sat on my bed, completely exposing himself to me. It was a terrible scene, but I got my wits about me. I pushed him, and he lost his balance, and he fell off the bed. And I scrambled. I ran out of the room, I ran out of the house, and I grabbed a pair of boots. And I ran until I was out of breath. I stopped and put the boots on. And I looked over at a house as I passed by. It was my friend's house. But I knew it would be inappropriate to bother them in the middle of the night. So I kept on going. I just hoped that I could catch my mom when she got off the highway and I could get back with her. I walked as far as I could. I'm in a nightie and a pair of boots with snow up to here. I finally just sat on a snowbank. A little while later, a truck came by, and there was a man driving the truck. I didn't want anything to do with the man. He drove off. A little while later, the truck came back with the same man driving. But there was a woman in the passenger seat. She coaxed me into the truck to get warm. I said nothing about what had gone on in the home, just that I was waiting for my mother. Pretty soon, they took me to the police station, and I had to share my story. Nothing happened to my mother's boyfriend. No arrest, no court, nothing. As a matter of fact, I had to live with that man. They got married and they moved. I had to leave my family. We left New England and we moved to Nebraska, where I had to live with that man until I was 17 when I decided to move away from home. That's when the abuse stopped. It was bad. But you know what? You know what was good? That man and that woman, they made a difference in my life. He took note. He knew I was in trouble. And he tried to help. And when that didn't work, he got back up. They made such a difference in my life. And I only wish that I was able to thank them. I never got their names. Out of their act of kindness came my ability to advocate for other people. And I'm so thankful for that. We'll all be faced with the choice to stand up for what is right and against what is wrong. I encourage each and every one of us to get involved, whether it's with our time, our treasure, or our talents. I'm stepping up. Stand up with me tonight. Stand up with me tonight and change the life of a child.
Freya, thank you for sharing your story, inspiring each of us to take a stand to prevent, intervene, and treat child abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, in continuation of tonight's theme, please stay seated as we dim the lights. And if you all could scoot your chairs in just a little bit, we have a very talented group of performers who will show us how this darkness can quickly be